What's up? My name is Casey Budge. This is the Fake Crime Podcast, and today we've got the end of our Voldemort, aka Tom Marvolo Riddle saga. So we're finally gonna get to the end of it. I've rambled on about Voldemort too much, but before we really get into it, I need to tell you guys about my co-host's awesome TikTok channel. You guys need to go follow Tips from the Tetons on TikTok, and she will teach you everything you absolutely need to know about Western life. She's got a couple of really funny videos up. The new one is my very favorite, but make sure that you go check that out.
Thanks for the shout out, Casey. I
Oh,
appreciate that.
anytime. It made me giggle. I just watched the last one, so it's great. So, do you remember where we left off?
I think we were leaving off. We left off and we were um had talked about uh nope, no, I don't.
I think we were all the way through book five, basically.
Yeah,
So, it was right at the end of book five when Voldemort is kind of back out in the open, and
right.
Sirius Black had just been killed in the Ministry. I was going back and listening to it, and I said that Harry got killed at the Ministry. That would be silly. Not yet.
That'd be ridiculous. We still have a ways to go.
We still have a long time to go.
We're gonna wrap this up though today.
At least three or four more episodes with two guys. No, I can't do that. It's two books, Casey. You
It's
can.
time to move on.
Yeah, I have so many good villains that I want to talk about, but Voldemort's just been my favorite. So
Absolutely. And if you guys have suggestions for villains that you'd like to see, let us know. Follow our socials and let us know.
yeah, for sure, because we would love to accommodate what sort of villains you guys want to hear about, as well as ones that we're pretty passionate about. So part of the fun of this is learning new things and learning about new villains and stuff. So that's part of the journey. But let's just jump right in to the end of Voldemort's story. So he was out in the open. He was seen by Fudge and therefore the rest of the ministry at the very end of this, and all of their house of cards that they had been holding up comes toppling down. They realize that the Azkaban is not safe. They realize that the Dementors are switching sides. They realize that he's been wrong this whole time and that Dumbledore has been trying to protect them. But at this point, it's already too late. Voldemort has basically garnered all the favor with the Giants. Azkaban is basically been emptied out of all of the uh, prisoners that are loyal to Voldemort, and there is just all these steps have been set in motion to where they they can't go back now. And so at this point, Fudge gets fired. Fudge is no longer the Minister for Magic. And there's this really funny chapter at the beginning of the sixth book that kind of encapsulates what all has been going on. So he talks about how at when a new prime minister for the UK is elected, the Minister for Magic will like come to him and talk to him and be like, "Oh yeah, by the way, there's all this magic that exists behind the scenes, but like you probably won't have to worry about it." And then this particular prime minister is gets assured of that on his first day, and then like throughout the course of his career as prime minister, he's like, "Oh yeah, Sirius Black has escaped. He's killed Muggles before, but it's probably fine." And then like oh yeah, we're importing some dragons, but that's probably fine.
That
Um,
shouldn't be an issue.
yeah, it'll
Yeah.
it'll be all right. And actually, that isn't an issue. But then like he gets told about all this little stuff that keeps piling up, and he keeps noticing. Well, for being someone who I'm not supposed to see a lot of, I'm seeing quite a lot of you, Fudge. And finally, in this sixth book, he's like, "Well, why aren't you doing something about this? Why haven't you done something? Like there has to be something that can be done. And he's like, oh, you can't possibly think that I still have my job.
As any good leader should be questioning what Fudge is doing here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fudge is completely inept, and so he gets replaced with Rufus Scrimger, who was formerly the head of the Auror office, the Dark Wizard Hunter office. And so a couple of events get described here, and this is another one of the books that we don't actually like see Voldemort in this book. We only see like people acting on his behalf. So one of the things that happens is described from the Muggle news as a hurricane, but really it's giants. Giants rampaging through, killing a bunch of Muggles. Then there are a couple of murders. Amelia Bones and one other person get murdered, and they think that that was Voldemort himself killing them. And Amelia Bones was, I think she was in the Order of the Phoenix, but she was definitely like a high-ranking member at the Ministry. And the Vice Minister for Magic, whatever Fudge's second in command is, or no, whatever the Prime Minister's second in command is, he appears to have been put under the Imperius Curse. And that's the other thing is more and more people are appearing to be under the Imperius Curse. And so uh, that whole debacle goes on. Simultaneously, a bunch of the Death Eaters who are at the Ministry, including Lucius Malfoy, are all thrown into prison. And it's all viewed as this debacle. And Lucius Malfoy was kind of the one in charge of this whole Ministry operation. He was kind of the one because he worked at the Ministry,
Right.
or not. I don't know if he actually worked there, but he was there a lot. He had given a lot of money to Fudge and stuff, so he was kind of instrumental in this whole deal. And so Voldemort blames him for the Ministry debacle. So he gives his son Draco a task. He says, "Okay, I need you to kill Albus Dumbledore because not he expects him to fail at this and he expects him to die trying to do this. But his thing is, if what if he succeeds? Like this is nothing but good for Voldemort because if Draco succeeds and kills Dumbledore, then his path to Harry is basically clear. Like the one person who stands in the way of him in between Harry is clear because that's the only thing that really saved Harry this last time was the fact that Dumbledore was there, right?
Right. Right. And Dumbledore is this very powerful, very influential wizard in this story.
Exactly. So, uh, but if Draco fails and dies, well, he's eliminated. Like he's sufficiently punished Lucius. So it's like either way, it's gonna be okay. Um, and this whole time, he also like Voldemort also kidnaps Ollivander, who's a notable wand maker. He like is doing a bunch of stuff behind the scenes to kind of set up for his takeover of the Ministry. And there's kind of active fighting going on, but it's not like full on war yet because Dumbledore is still alive, so he's kind of running counter on this, and the Order of the
Right.
Phoenix is kind of still operating like it should. So it is kind of all going the way that it should. And meanwhile, uh, Voldemort doesn't know this, but Dumbledore at the time is going through and he is finding all of the Horcruxes that Tom Riddle made. And he figures out one that was the ring, uh, that was the Gaunt family ring. So Tom stole this off of his uncle when he went and killed his dad, and he made that into a ring.
Mhm.
And that's important to him because it shows his lineage coming from Slytherin, so it shows his direct that he is the heir of Slytherin. Uh, Dumbledore also figures out that the diary that was used to open the Chamber of Secrets was likely a Horcrux as well.
Right.
He also figures out that Voldemort probably had two other Horcruxes that were one of like Slytherin's locket and Helga Hufflepuff's cup, which he both got from Hepzibah Smith when he killed her. If you remember, we talked about that kind of in the first episode.
Right.
And so he's kind of piecing together all these pieces, and he finds out that there is a cave that is going there, and him and Harry go there at the same time. Uh, Dumbledore had been leaving the school a lot, so Draco had been kind of struggling to figure out when to put his plan into motion, but he does on the same night that Dumbledore leaves school. So Voldemort is off doing all this stuff in the background, but he does allow Draco to have this plan set in motion that involves several Death Eaters coming into Hogwarts. And this represents another thing that I think is really interesting, is that every time that Voldemort has attacked Harry, besides the first year, he has somehow drawn Harry outside of Hogwarts. He has taken him outside of Hogwarts, um, and he hasn't attacked him within the confines of the school because he's afraid of Dumbledore. But and like even his Death Eaters don't come into the school. But in this, the Death Eaters infiltrate the school, and there's actual fighting inside of Hogwarts, and that is something that's unique to this, and that kind of represents a change from, okay, Hogwarts was this place of safety and security, and this, and then it shifts, and at the same time that shifts, Draco Malfoy disarms Dumbledore. He manages to get Death Eaters into Hogwarts using a vanishing cabinet, and he disarms Dumbledore, and that'll come back later. That'll be important later. So Draco is able to disarm Dumbledore, and in the process, Dumbledore is very weak because while he was gone, he was retrieving one of the Horcruxes from one of Voldemort's stashes, but it actually turned out to be a fake Horcrux stolen by Sirius Black's brother.
What?
I know, crazy. But that doesn't necessarily matter for right now, because the more important thing that happens on this night is that Dumbledore is killed by the secret double agent Severus Snape. Bum bum bum. So Snape comes in, and Harry was specifically sent to go and retrieve Snape. So Harry goes and is sent to retrieve him, but unknowing to Harry, he is put under the Petrificus Totalicus spell by Dumbledore, and at this same moment, Draco comes in, disarms Dumbledore, and then Snape shows up later with all of the Death Eaters, kills Dumbledore, and then Draco, the Death Eaters, and Snape all leave the school, so they all run. And the crazy thing here is that Dumbledore is killed, and it's this big moment because Harry's kind of last protector, his last person who has always stood between him and Voldemort, is killed, and it's kind of this this growing up moment. Like from this point on, Harry's gonna have to fight all of his own battles. He's not gonna have anyone to really hide behind. He's gonna have to do the thing himself.
And also all of Hogwarts as well. Dumbledore is this big protector of not only Harry, but the I mean, he was trying to warn of all of these of the giants and of these Horcruxes, and he was trying to warn Fudge about all of this. So this big protector is now defeated.
Yeah, and one of the most outspoken people against the dark arts in general is silenced, and so from now on, like the world has lost this great icon of light and this beacon of hope, who is more complicated than a lot of people give him credit for, but he was he fought the dark arts for a lot of his life, so I think he deserves credit for that at the very least.
Right.
So we move on to the seventh book, and in this one, it is all out warfare. The Death Eaters are attacking people out in the open. The Ministry is in shambles, basically uh, trying to keep Voldemort and his lot in line, but they are failing at every turn. And Voldemort has openly kidnapped a uh, Hogwarts teacher, kills her. They figure out what night Harry Potter is going to be transported from the Dursleys to whatever safe house he's going to be through Snape and through his other connections. We also find out at this point that a number of the members of the Ministry of Magic have been put under the Imperius Curse. And we also find out that uh, here soon, somewhere in here, we find out that Snape is going to be the new headmaster of Hogwarts. So the person who was seen killing the previous headmaster of Hogwarts is going to be in charge of it. So that's just kind of the state of things. And so on the night that Harry is supposed to be transported, Voldemort, on the advice of Severus Snape, comes in. He attacks the convoy. He has this duel with Harry Potter, and because of some lingering magic, he doesn't bring his own wand because he knows that the twin cores problem is still there. He hasn't fixed it. That's partly the reason why he kidnapped a wand maker, is because he wanted to get past that problem, and so he was trying to figure it out. So he actually takes Lucius's wand and he uses it to fight Harry this time. But even that, by some sort of magic, Harry is able to blow him away, and Harry escapes him another time. But like Mad Eye Moody is killed in this fight, so another Auror is dead. And during this time, uh, after this, they decide that they cannot get to Harry Potter where he is for the time being without the might of the Ministry behind them. So at this point, Voldemort is moving behind the scenes to slowly, over the next couple of days, they are moving to take over the Ministry of Magic. And on the date of Bill and Fleur's wedding, they actually succeed. They take over the Ministry of Magic, so there's no like legal repercussions for what they do, and all of the protection that was at the Burrow fails, and Harry is now on the run.
Mm.
And so Snape is instituted as the headmaster of Hogwarts. The Carrows, who are two Death Eaters, a brother and sister, are placed in Hogwarts as like the the dark arts teachers. But they also because previously it was like defense against the dark arts, but now it's just the dark arts. And they are also in charge of punishment. So like at one point, they want them to like practice the Cruciatus Curse on first years. It's super
Oh,
whack. Yeah, it's terrible. So the whole thing at Hogwarts too is even crazier, because this whole time the Carrows and Snape are protecting, like doing this whole terror campaign over everyone, but Neville, of all people, the most cowardly, the most scared guy there, the one who's always forgetting stuff, the bumbling guy, is leading this like guerrilla force of people inside of Hogwarts, and he is like standing up to the Carrows at every chance. He's fighting kind of this guerrilla war. At one point, they break into Snape's office to try and steal the sword of Gryffindor for Harry, but it turns out that it isn't there, and that or that the one in there, or they don't get a hold of the one that's there, but after that, it gets sent to Gringotts,
mm.
and it gets put in the Lestrange Vault. And at this point, I'm just going to do a brief kind of synopsis of what Harry does. And Harry basically camps and hides out and looks for Horcruxes this whole book. And in the meantime, Voldemort is collecting power. He's ruling over the Wizarding World, and he does something really smart in here, which is he doesn't assign himself Minister for Magic. He assigns a puppet in
Hmm.
his place. So assigning himself Minister for Magic would could have lots of people like rise up against him and that sort of thing. But he places this puppet who no one knows if they're on Voldemort's side or if not, and so it kind of creates this mistrust. But he is controlled by Voldemort, and more people are under the Imperius curse. No one knows who to trust. It's this whole kind of dystopian kind of future sort of thing.
Mhm.
So while Voldemort is doing that, Harry goes around and he destroys several more of the Horcruxes. He destroys the locket. He destroys the cup. He destroys. Um, I think that's all that he destroys while he's outside of Hogwarts. But he does at one point. He goes to the house of the old magical historian. What's her name? I cannot remember. But basically, Voldemort had the foresight to tell his snake, who is also his magical snake, who he milked. Also, shout out to Blake for pointing out the fact that we missed a excellent opportunity to tell a snake oil joke when we were talking about milking the snake. That was a big miss on our part.
That's funny.
We'll work on doing better on that one. Um, but we so Voldemort has the foresight to have his snake, who also houses a piece of his soul, go and hide out inside of the skin and the body of this old woman. Like this is the part of it that doesn't make any sense to me. It's so weird. Like it's the way that it's portrayed is goofy and weird, and I don't particularly love this. But uh, for whatever reason, Harry does go and visit her, and the snake like attacks him, and and um, Voldemort comes and tries to uh, catch him there, but Harry is able to slip away before Voldemort gets there, and so Voldy's pretty upset there, and then uh, later on, um, Harry is able to uh, kind of get back together with Ron. There's a whole bunch of infighting. They're low on food. It's the worst part. I do not particularly enjoy that part of the book, but it's okay. But
Yeah.
at this point, Voldemort has a new obsession because he has realized that okay, that there must be something about Harry's wand that is extra special. So Voldemort goes looking for the Elder Wand, and the Elder Wand is part of this trio of magical items that is unique in the fact that uh, there's this folk tale that surrounds them about three brothers who came to this river, and this river normally kills travelers when they cross it, but they magic a bridge across, and they're able to cross it, and Death himself shows up to them and presents them with these gifts. One is the Elder Wand, which is supposed to win any fight that it gets into. One is the Resurrection Stone that can bring back your like anyone you want from the dead, and one is the Invisibility Cloak. And Voldemort doesn't care about the other two, but he is really interested in the other one because it has been held by a number of dark wizards before him, and so he's kind of off tracing where it has been. He knows that at one point, Gregorovich, who was an old wand maker, had it, so he goes to him first, and he finds out that it was stolen by another dark wizard who is Grindelwald. And Grindelwald is this other really interesting character who I think is way cool. He was the previous like Dark Lord of the Wizarding World. He now sits in a prison, rotting away, and he was also involved, whether that's friendship or romantically, with Dumbledore at one point, which is hilarious.
Huh.
Yeah, yeah. The more you know.
The more you know.
Yeah. Um, but he finds out that Grindelwald had it, and then Grindelwald tells him that Dumbledore had it. So uh, and Grindelwald says that he doesn't think that anyone else took it from Dumbledore because really no one beat Dumbledore in a duel. Like it was no one like killed Dumbledore except for Snape, but Dumbledore was already unarmed, so like he doesn't think that that counts. So
Right.
uh, Voldemort goes and he goes to the grave of Albus and he finds that this wand is there and it appears to be made out of yew wood like the mythical item was.
Hmm.
So he goes about doing that. And once again, he gets called at this point to the Malfoy's house. And because they say that they have captured someone who they think is Harry Potter.
Mm.
So he goes there and he realizes that Harry is not there. Um, and then after that, he uh, gets real mad. And I actually have my order mixed up there. Um, to he goes to the Malfoys, and then he goes and gets Dumbledore's old wand.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So in that order. Um, and then Harry, the Mad Lad, decides to break into Gringotts because he thinks that there's another Horcrux in there. So he
Mm.
breaks into Gringotts, steals that, and Voldemort hears that he broke into Gringotts, goes there, kills everybody there, basically, like kills a bunch of people because he doesn't want anyone to know why he was there or what he was upset about. And so at this point, uh, Voldemort starts going and checking on his other Horcruxes because he's like, well, that's a little bit coincidental that Harry was in this place where one of my Horcruxes was.
Right.
Maybe I'll just go check on him. So he goes to the I think he goes to the uh, Gaunt hut and checks there, and the ring is gone. And
Hmm.
then he goes to the uh, and then he goes to the lake where Dumbledore had to drink all that potion and stuff, and where Voldemort basically tried to kill uh, Creature, Sirius Black's house elf, and
Hmm.
he goes there and he gets across and he goes to the potion and he realizes that the potion is empty and that the locket is gone, and so he's like, "Damn, well I better go and get my last Horcrux, which is at bum 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 Hogwarts." And through their mental connection that they have, Harry figures out that that is where this last Horcrux is. So Harry is actually able to beat Voldemort there, and he uh, he goes in and he finds that Horcrux and destroys it. But in the meantime, Voldemort and an army of Death Eaters show up outside of Hogwarts, and they basically launch a full-on frontal assault on Hogwarts. They kill their way through. They kill a bunch of people. A bunch of named characters get killed in this fight. It's brutal, honestly. They have giants. They have like the Acromantulas are fighting on their side. It's all sorts of craziness going on. Uh,
Yeah.
so this whole battle of Hogwarts is going on, but the whole time Voldemort is kind of staying in the back because he is trying to do this to lure Harry out. He still just wants to kill Harry. He's still obsessed with Harry, and he has this wand that he thinks, okay, I can finally kill Harry. Like I have this wand that will win me any duel, that will do anything for me. Uh, and so he
Which is, it's kind of fascinating that he's so hung up on Harry because he has so much power. I mean, like now that the Horcruxes are gone, a little bit less, but he's caused so much evil and he's still just hung up on killing this one boy.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is that Harry would have been dead a number of times if he didn't have this stupid rule about only I can kill Potter.
Right.
Because Voldemort, if you want to talk about one thing or the other, Voldemort puts a lot of store in the prophecy, way more than
Yeah.
anyone else. And so I don't know if he actually heard the line, but he is like, yeah, only um, like only one can kill the other, and
Right.
neither can live while the other survives. That whole thing. He is obsessed with knowing that. I don't think he knows that part, but he does know that like he's the one who's supposed to kill Harry, and he's obsessed with proving that he's more powerful than Harry and all this stuff. But he goes to all these ridiculous lengths to get like a more powerful wand and to cheat his way around it, and it's so funny.
Yeah.
So, uh, he attacks Hogwarts, and then he eventually stops the attack, and is like, okay, and he sends out a mental blast message out to everyone is like, Harry Potter, you are a coward and you've allowed your friends to die, and if you're not a coward, you'll come and you'll die in the forest like a man.
Mm.
uh but at this point, he also kills Severus Snape because he's like, man, this wand is awesome. It's great, and I'm awesome, but it's not working quite right. Like there's a little resistance. It's
Mm.
pulling slightly to the left, if you will. So so I wonder. Well, this one's lore does kind of say that it will only obey the person who killed its last master. And you,
Uh,
Snape, my faithful Death Eater of 17 years, did kill its last master. So maybe I need to kill you. But instead of like Avada Kedavraing him, he summons his snake into a cage around his head, into a cage around Snape's head, and has the snake like bite him all over. Which in my mind, that's like leaving it up to fate a little bit because what if it's like, well, now Nagini is the master of the other wand?
right. Now only the snake can kill it. And like that's awful that he can't just like put Snape out of his misery. Like just kill Snape in a humane kind of way.
Yeah, and he leaves him there alive too, which is ultimately his downfall because shock twist number three, Snape was actually a triple agent this whole time, and he tells Harry about this whole thing about how Harry is actually the secret Horcrux that Voldemort never intended to make. So Harry has to die, and Voldemort has to kill him. It's this whole thing that Dumbledore had planned out this whole time, which is this whole thing about how like yeah,
Snape is the most interesting character in this book.
he really
And
is.
he's just like all over the place all the
Snape,
time. I
Snape
can't
really,
get a read on him.
he's literally just a girl. He has a diary that he writes in. He has his little potion book, and he's like, "No, you don't. I don't want to crush up the beetles. I want to smash them with the side of my blade. Yes, that will do." And then
Yes,
and then
yes.
he invents his little spells. He's like, "I set them simpler. Four enemies."
It's like a girl making her iced coffee. A
She
little bit of this, a
he
little bit
he
of this.
he's literally just a girl. Oh, also, a fun fact about the sixth book is that when Snape is the professor, he always writes his instructions up on the board. Like they never read out of the textbook when Snape's the professor. And then when Slughorn is the professor, they're always reading out of the book. So the theory is that Snape was just writing his instructions like from the Half Blood Prince book that were so good and worked so well for Harry up on the board. So he
Mm.
was showing the better instructions to them as opposed to what was actually in the book.
Hmm.
Yeah, interesting little theory right there. But basically, because of that memory, Harry decides, okay, I am going to walk into the woods and I am going to give myself up. And he also realizes that his invisibility cloak uh, is the legendary cloak from the story, and that he was given the resurrection stone through or through Dumbledore's will, basically, because Dumbledore gave Harry, Ron, and Hermione a couple of things, and
Right.
he gave Harry a snitch that secretly had the resurrection stone inside of it. So Harry has this touching moment where he sees all of his parental figures around him, and he is able to like kind of get a farewell with all of them before he walks off to his death. He goes and he sacrifices himself to Voldemort in order to kill one of the last Horcruxes, and he tells people on the way out, "Hey, like you've got to kill the snake if you get a chance." Like Ron and
Right.
Hermione already know this, but you've got to kill the snake. So uh he goes, he sacrifices himself. Voldemort kills him. Uh, Malfoy's mom walks up and is like, "Yeah, yeah, he's dead." But she's lying because she wants to know if Draco's alive. So, so she like goes up and tests his pulse and is like, "Yep, he's totally dead, but he's actually alive." And so Voldemort has Hagrid carry Harry back to the school, and they're like, "Ha ha ha, Harry's dead." And Neville is out there, and he's like, "Hey, Voldemort, up yours! You suck!" and Voldemort keeps casting spells. This is another part that I wish they did in the movies that I think is a really cool touch that they really missed out on. Is that Voldemort keeps trying to do spells um, on all of the people, like the whole crowd and like Neville and stuff, trying while they're like standing out in front of him, but they keep not
Mhm.
working. Like they don't work super well against them.
Hmm.
And uh, the reason that that is, I think, is that Harry did the same thing that his mom did for uh, for all of the people in Hogwarts. He went there when he didn't have to and died when he didn't have to for all of them to protect all of them. So now they have this sacrificial love cast on all of them. So basically, like Voldemort couldn't kill any of them. It's kind of this funny thing. Um, Voldemort keeps making the same mistakes over and over and over again.
Right.
And oh, I forgot to mention earlier when they were at the Malfoy's house, Harry disarmed Draco. Again, that will
Mhm.
come up here again in a minute. So Harry, uh, basically in the whole commotion where Neville is like yelling and making a whole disturbance, and they set the Sorting Hat on fire, and he's like, "Oh, this is Slytherin will suffice for all the people. We don't need any Hufflepuffs." Um, Voldemort is going on this. He's doing his evil villain monologue. Neville's interrupting him, and then Harry stands up and he's like, "Yeah, I'm still alive," and he runs into the castle.
I'm not dead.
I'm not dead, and so so a bunch of duels kind of break out right now, but a bunch of the Death Eaters are like, "Oh snap! Harry wasn't dead this whole time. Yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. Like this is not good." So
See ya.
a bunch of the Death Eaters leave, and they're kind of like three duels going on at the same time. There's Voldemort dueling with like I think it's like Professor Flitwick, McGonagall, and like maybe Slughorn or one of the other professors are all
Mhm.
dueling Voldemort, and like Molly Weasley is dueling Bellatrix Lestrange. Molly Weasley kicks Bellatrix booty,
As
uh,
she should.
as she should, and says, "Not my daughter, you bitch." Yeah. And then Harry gets in there and he's like, "No, no, 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 no." Uh, Molly Weasley kills Bellatrix, and then Harry's like, "Okay, okay, hold on, hold on, hold on. Voldy, it's you and me, mano y mano,
Mano y mano.
mano y mano." If I went to Hogwarts, would use physical violence. No magic spells are gonna work on me. I mean, have you heard that TikTok song?
No, I have not, but I have heard the um Snape,
Severus
Severus
Snape,
Snape,
Dumbledore.
Dumbledore.
Yeah, if you haven't watched Harry Potter Puppet Pals, you're missing out, bud.
You're missing
Especially the mysterious ticking noise one or the wizard swears.
out. All good.
They're all hilarious.
Yeah.
So anyway, Harry walks in there and he's like, "Okay, it's me and you, Voldy, mano y mano." But Harry also goes into this whole monologue. It's like, yeah. Uh, and in the fighting, Neville chops off the snake's head with the sword.
Good.
Gryffindor. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's awesome. It's great. Uh, and so they all do. Um, so Harry's like, "Oh, you're all out of Horcruxes, and you keep making the same mistakes. You keep underestimating all these smaller creatures. You underestimate house elves and love and all this stuff. because the big theme in the story is love, and that's kind of how Harry pulls through lots of things, and that's how Harry survived in the first place, is because his mother loved him enough to sacrifice himself for him.
Right. Mhm.
And so uh, Harry is able to. Uh, Harry basically goads Voldemort into attacking him, and because. All right, so here's now where we have to go back in time a little bit, because when Draco disarmed Dumbledore, the wand, the Elder Wand, chose Malfoy as its new master, and then
Yeah.
later on, Harry disarms Draco. So now Harry is the master of the Elder Wand, and no one's beaten Harry
Ah.
in a duel or anything. So Voldemort, using the Elder Wand, tries to kill Harry. It won't kill Harry, and actually the spell rebounds onto Voldemort, kills him, and that's where the story ends. And people have lots of mixed feelings about the ending of this, but the bottom line is that it is Voldemort's own hubris, his own pride, his own self sense of I am better than anyone else. I alone can control these powers. And he talks a lot about how, like, oh yeah, or like in his thoughts it's like, oh yeah, only I ever discovered the rumor requirement, when in reality, like, tons and tons of people have discovered it. And even the place where you hid your Horcrux in the rumor requirement is full of treasures and trash from people who have discarded stuff. So like,
Right.
what an arrogant thought to think that you are the only one who has discovered that.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts from you, Kate, on Voldemort?
I think that it's just like we see those trends over and over again where he is so much like, other killers and psychopaths that we see in true crime podcasts, that he has those same narcissistic traits and um downfalls, ultimately downfalls that we see um from old Voldy as we do other killers.
Yeah, he's an excellent villain for a lot of those reasons. He is has the same kind of, like, he has a magical explanation for his sociopathism, but like he's a sociopath, and he also is uh, this racist, and he views people as less than human, and like all these things that you see from a typical murderer in our world, you can see on him, and you
Yeah.
can see the same kind of traits as these other killers. Also, the theme of this whole story is about how love, and love is more powerful than anything, and Voldemort is unable to feel love, so that is ultimately his downfall. That's kind of
Right.
the underlining theme. Every major win that Harry uh, achieves is because of love. He's able to survive when he is a baby because of love. He chooses not to, like, hurt Sirius Black at one point because of compassion for another human. He chooses to uh, spare Peter Pettigrew at one point because of compassion, and he chooses to, like, help people because of compassion. And every time, even though it seems like it's a downfall in the first place, right then and there, when it feels like a weakness to love, it is always a win in the long term. And that is
Absolutely.
the overall message of Harry Potter: is that you need to love and be compassionate and be nice to your friends.
Good, good. And I hope we see the same trends in our next villain.
Yes, yes. I don't know who it will be yet, so you guys will be in for as much of a surprise as I will next week.
I
Oh man. Any last thoughts, Kate?
don't think so.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. This has been the Fake Crime Podcast. Be sure to leave us a rating, review on whatever podcast listener you're on, and be sure to follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, on X, on Threads, on MySpace, on.
Do we have a MySpace?
I do not think we have a MySpace, unfortunately. If you want to get on making us a MySpace, Kate, so
I don't know how to do
I
MySpace.
don't know how to do MySpace either. Yeah, we're not on
Twitter, I
MySpace.
don't, yeah.
I got the Twitter. Don't you worry, Kate.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm
Good,
tweeting up
good.
a storm all about Voldemort.
Oh, good.
All right, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll have another episode next week.